This Jersey girl has no filter.
So are you getting a lot of hate?
Yeah, a lot of hate.
Bullshit.
Welcome to BS with Bella. Hi, welcome back to another episode of BS with Bella, and I'm with Gina Bradley. Hello, Mrs. Bradley.
Hello. Nice to be here.
What made you get into your paddleboard company? Like, I know you started this and now it's taking off. Like, how'd you get the name and how'd you get into it?
Well, I first started Paddle Diva 15 years ago. My kids were younger and we had a lot of gear because my husband is really athletic. And I stepped on a paddleboard and I immediately thought, oh my God, this is something that could be so great for people on vacation or if they live here or whatever it is that they do during the summer or wherever there's water. So I immediately came up with this idea to start a paddleboarding business. And one night out at dinner, my husband and I were talking when I came up with the idea and he said, why do you call it Paddle Diva? The reason he said that is because I use this word freely, like diva. I used to call it diva parking. My best friend in college used to say, oh my God, we need to get diva parking, which is like the spot right in the front.
The spot right in the front of the place.
Right. So that when you open the door, you know, you're divas. And so I kind of use that term less for what it literally means, which is an opera singer or somebody who thinks very highly of themselves, and more for that term of somebody who's just fabulous. And that's how I came up with the name.
And so what made you like get into the paddleboarding company? I know you said it kind of just came up at dinner and you guys were athletic. Did you like ever like dabble in any other entrepreneurships? Yes. Creating a company?
So I am entrepreneurial in my nature. For sure when I lived in the Caribbean for 5 years after college. So I got a BA in politics from the University of Vermont and then quickly moved down to the Caribbean and hustled. I hustled in tourism. I was a dive instructor. Then I sold Yellow Page ads on another island. Like I kind of hustled. Okay. So I learned sort of what it takes. You know, I never yes, I always worked for people, but I also learned how to hustle, meaning when you got somewhere, you weren't just like, oh, I'm going to go find a job. Where's the nearest Denny's so that I can find a job? It was more like, whoa, this island is a really cool island and it has a market where women aren't being taught scuba diving very well. And I'm a woman and I teach scuba diving. So I'm going to open the scuba diving shop's female division. And so I would go for that kind of stuff. So that was sort of my spark into entrepreneurship. College taught me a lot of amazing things. When I look back on those skills, I learned speech. I took a lot of speech classes.
Were you a business major that kind of helped you with this?
I was a political science major. So it's really funny. No, I took all the different elements of being in college, and I think that's what kind of poured into becoming more of a entrepreneur.
So when you came up with the idea, did you start in your hometown, or you kind of just was like, always had like this idea to start like in a Caribbean island?
No, for Paddle Diva, for Paddle Diva, I knew it would have to be in this hometown because again, like when I was in the Caribbean, this market is so unique because we have every summer our population triples, and it triples with incredibly high net worth individuals. And that particular demographic loves to be handheld. And what we do in Paddle Diva is we take them out on hour-long stand-up paddleboarding tours where they're taught how to paddleboard, and then they're also toured around and taken sort of on this voyage.
That's so cool.
1 hour, because New Yorkers like to know, how long is it? How much is it? What do I get from it? Because it's 1 hour long, and out here we charge upwards of $100 a session, depending on if you do a group or if you do it as a private.
Yeah.
And they get taught, they get comfortable, they get pictures, and then they're on their way.
Nice.
So, that I saw in this market, and we've just been developing it every summer, making it better, finding new ways to market it, finding new ways to reach new clients, offering new products like camp, offering adventure paddle tours that are exclusively led by me.
Nice.
So so that's some of the sort of background.
And have you ever thought about taking it out of the country? I said, you've been to the Caribbean islands. Have you ever expanded your company outside the US?
We have. We were in Rincon, Puerto Rico for about 2 years.
That's so
Then
cool.
sadly, Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico and it definitely made it a bit
Like an
tricky.
impact.
Yeah. So, we sort of closed up from there. And so that was like the first foray into Paddle Diva being more global. It's a funny business in that, there's so many small paddleboarding shops around that for me to kind of break into a new market, there's already businesses doing what I do.
Yeah.
And, so what we've found and what we've really settled on is that Paddle Diva is exclusively in the Hamptons and in
Nice.
and possibly this winter in Palm Beach County.
Nice.
It has to be in high net worth areas in order for it to be really successful.
So do you have any competition in the Hamptons, or were you kind of the first one to kind of like dabble in the paddleboard?
Yeah, I was the first one who started, and then it was really funny. I made it look so easy that a lot of my clients that I trained went on and thought, oh, well, I'm going to try to do paddleboarding.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had a lot of competition in the first 3 years or 4 years.
Yeah.
But I've shown staying power and a lot now there's very little competition. There's really only one paddleboarding place that people come to in the Hamptons.
Nice.
That's me. I mean, there's some other ones.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty much the one that people go, oh yeah, you want to go paddleboarding? Go to Paddle Diva. So yeah, it's minimal competition at this point for me, which is kind of nice.
Can you share like any memorable like customer stories or feedbacks that you've gotten from people?
Sure. I have had a lot of fun because I do have a nice celebrity client base. So I've had a lot of fun taking some celebrities out, and I'm not allowed to talk about all of them, but some of the celebrities that you can see, because if you just Google it, Summer Share.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. They are in the Hamptons too.
They're in the Hamptons too. And they came to me and they said, we want to do a full segment with you and our group's going to go paddling. And this was a business lesson for me because they said, listen, normally I get paid to do that because it's work. They said, we're not going to pay you. We just promise we're going to have you're going to have a lot of exposure on the show. And I was like, oh,
that's interesting.
I was like, all right. So if I get a lot of exposure, I guess that worked. Turns out, and this is stuff, you can't really fight it once it's been done.
Yeah.
But it turns out they didn't really even use the segment.
So it's like they kind of just were like, yeah, we'll put you in. And then it's like, oh, well, there's no Paddle Diva on the show.
Yeah. Well, they were paddleboarding, but it wasn't, they cut all of the funny parts where I'm teaching them and they're falling in, and it just focused in because two of the cast members were having this big heart to heart moment that I guess happened on the paddleboard. So it zoomed in on that. And that's what was the whole segment was about that. So it was kind of funny.
How is it? I guess, like you said, you have a lot of celebrity client based. How is it filming shows? Does that usually take kind of a 3-hour type of lesson?
Yes.
You kind of have to make more time for people like that.
Yeah. And we're really good at this at Paddle Diva. I'm extremely good at if they say what shot they want or how they want to get the shot, I can do it really well with them. Because, I get what they need. Paddleboarding is kind of boring. You're just kind of paddling along, standing on a board. So I know how to keep them close to shore and get them to come in at the camera, and I can stand the cameraman in a certain spot and say, all right, you're going to stay there. I'm going to take them out, and so yeah, I'm pretty good at getting the footage that they want.
Oh, nice. So when you first, like you said, starting in the Hamptons, do you have a vision for the next 10 years you see for Paddle Diva?
I see Paddle Diva expanding within the Hamptons in that we're just going to continue to grow our client base and continue to offer more services. So we're going to expand our camp a bit more because we're in this new location that is so nice. It's a marina and it's very close to the water. So you're 2 steps, you're in the water, and it's a great atmosphere for kids. So we're going to expand into more of a kid offering. We're going to expand and be doing more kayaking because we're so close to the water. It's just so easy to get kayaks in and out. We're going to continue doing paddleboarding. So I think I see myself expanding even more into the Hamptons and just growing in this. This is the most, dense population in the summer to make a lot of money. And then I don't have to work the rest of the year.
There you go. So how do you find I guess teachers in this? Do you are you like hiring teachers, or is this more like a family base where it's like you and the same two other people?
Good question. At first, Paddle Diva was just me, and it was exhausting, and I would work 9, 10, 11,
12
12,
hours.
back to back. And then I would go home to my 2 little kitties. And so it was a lot. So what happened is I quickly hired, what I first started doing was I hired like assistants, and I was hiring lifeguards who had been sort of disillusioned working inside the town of East Hampton because they weren't making as much money and, or weren't making enough money. And I was able to offer a lot more money. So I was working with sort of these kind of hunky guys. And it was funny because I was getting all these really cute lifeguards. So for a while I had a really
cute clientele.
Yeah, it was very funny. It's now since shifted, and I am now a master trainer through an association called the Academy of Surfing Instructors out of Australia. So I now like certify instructors.
Okay.
And it's a 3-day program, and it's really intense. But so I've moved. That was like, 10, 12 years ago that there was nobody was certifying. There was no such thing as a certified stand-up paddle instructor. So who I was using, as long as they were lifeguards and I taught them how to paddle,
how to do it.
Yeah. But now I have this incredible staff. I have about 8 people who work for me. They train with me in the beginning of the season. Often I have an incredible employee retention. Everybody comes back to me. Nice. So it's lucky for me because I tend to have a lot of amazing flow with my employees coming back, working for me. When I lose one, I train another one up. I keep them for 2 or 3 summers. So it's not the Gina show anymore. In fact, it's rare you get me on the water. Normally I'm not on the water as much. I'm behind the scenes.
You behind the scene work. So you started with a 1-man show and it.
Exactly.
What would you tell yourself, something that you didn't know, like before getting into this industry? Like, did you wish you knew something beforehand, or did you pretty much you're pretty happy about learning the process through it all?
I think the one thing I wish I knew before I sort of jumped into this was how slow things happen, and how long it takes to get yourself to where you want to be in business. I am, a lot of people have this thought that and I think it's just what's going on now. Like, oh my God, I heard my friend, he's selling so-and-so and he's a billionaire now. That, hard work pays off, but it's hard work to get you to where you want to go.
It's slow, slowly.
Yeah. And I wish I had known that, because sometimes there were summers where I would really lose patience and I'd want to like I'd say, I'm not doing this next summer. It's too much. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But, I'm glad that I stuck to it, because now I'm kind of in the cruise mode.
Yeah, I feel like with the travel agent, even doing my side part, the clientele, it just takes time just to build your clientele. Yep. And how did you market that? Like when you started so small, were you always on social media? I mean, I don't know. God, you said 15 years ago.
Funny.
So
yeah, no, I forgot, I was going to mention, after my Caribbean stint, I moved back to New York and I worked in sales and marketing. I worked in business development inside a huge branding shop called Siegel and Gale, which was owned by a giant holding house.
Yeah.
And so I worked in business development also for a French package design company. So I was in business development. So I learned a lot of writing skills, a lot of marketing skills, because in order to get a client, one of my first clients that I brought to the company was Toys R Us for their first website redesign. So when they had that first generation website, you probably weren't even yet.
Toys R Us, that was a while ago.
Yeah. We took it from that and I sold them to do an e-commerce website. And that was my first client that I brought into Siegel and Gale, and it was an amazing client. But you learn a lot about business development and how to sell and how to market. And so I was able to apply that to my own business. And what you have with a lot of the water sports companies and water sports businesses is it's people who are athletic like myself and water sports people, but they don't have the marketing behind them.
Yeah, they kind of just make it without any thinking.
Yeah. So what made the difference with my brand and my business is the first thing I did is I built my own Microsoft Office website.
Wow.
Way back when. And I had this little website, and I remember I had all these little ideas, like I'm going to feature one of my 10 clients, because I had about 10 when I started, as Diva of the Week. And I'm going to put it on the website, and then they're going to tell their friends to look at themselves up on my website. And that's how I'm going to get more people to my website. Perfect. So it's these little viral tricks I mean, there wasn't even Facebook back then. I
Yeah.
used a flip phone. I mean, like this is my D pillar, but it always reminds me of my old flip phone. I used to have a flip phone, and that's my business started with a flip phone.
That's crazy.
And when people wanted to buy cards from me, I had a little hole punch. I'd be like, okay, but and I remember my first credit card machine went like, like
Oh,
paper.
wow.
They put their credit card
like
in.
From the movies, like the old way.
Yeah, I mean, and I remember the first time a client said, "You take Venmo," and I was like, Venmo? I don't know about Venmo. So anyway, it's it was a very slow burn. It was slow, it was very viral. That is how my business started. And the other trick that I did was because what I was doing was so unique. I did my own PR. So I contacted the East Hampton Star, our local newspaper, Newsday, Long Island's local newspaper. I contacted so many outlets and I got a lot of press. So it was like a mixture of doing my website, eventually getting on Facebook. That was like 3 years after I started the business.
Wow.
Then, getting a lot of press, and then it was just word of mouth.
That's crazy.
And email blasts.
So do you have a little shop in the Hamptons, or do you,
yes,
or mostly like an online based thing?
No, I have the cutest.
She's like, I have the cutest place ever.
I have the cutest place ever. It's been an evolution because one of my places that I worked out of first, I was in a marina and I had a spot inside the building, but that lease ran out. And so I found this new marina where I rented a container that's a 12-foot by, 8 feet by 20-foot wide container that we built out with like doors and windows. We hang our paddles on it. People walk up to it. It's really cool. So I'll make sure I send you a picture because that's the coolest thing about my business now is I'm also self-sufficient. Like literally I could pack up that container and ship it anywhere.
That's crazy.
I know we were talking about the expansion of Paddle Diva and where it's going. Well, who knows? Maybe I will get a wild hair and I'll create little mini Paddle Divas inside containers and start shipping them out.
Do you sell paddle boards, or is it kind of you have to rent them for your clients, or your clients has to bring their own in? How do you kind of do
because we're such a big market. Yeah, we are primarily rental, and when people sign up for a lesson, they get a board. Very rarely do people bring boards. Most of the time, people don't have the boards. They're so heavy. Paddle board's about 25, 30 pounds.
Yeah.
So we do sell boards, but it's not really, you make more money in service than you do in sales. So I do sell boards, but my primary rental is service. And, rental boards go for up here, it's cheap. I'm sure in places like Florida and lower, it's not, but $50 an hour, and people are constantly coming and just renting and taking off.
So you're saying for the next vision, you would probably stay in the Hamptons. You probably wouldn't expand to anywhere else in the state.
I mean, not unless somebody's dying to have this brand and business and there's the right location, the right client base, more than likely. I mean, I could see franchising if somebody was dying to have this pre-formulated plan. I could easily send it out. Like I said, I could stuff a shipping container and it would probably cost somebody, I don't know, 25, 30 grand to start up a business, but it's a possibility.
Yeah. It's always out there if you really wanted to do it.
Oh yeah. I'm not closed off to opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite.
Have you ever experienced bumps when you were first starting this? And what would you tell people if they want to start a business overall, not even just in the paddleboarding, but just starting a company? Like you said, you started so young, what were the bumps that you had to go through, and what would your advice be to people?
Never give up. Just never give up. Just keep your head down and work. When you see competition,
just work, keep pushing.
It's come from a place of abundance. I always say that. There is no competition. I come from there's enough business for all of us.
Yeah.
So I don't really think of a lot of competition around me. When I had some zoning issues with our local town.
Yeah.
And rather than let that flatten me, I just put my head down and I worked, and I overcame the town's objections to my location and made it happen. And I also followed my passion. I'm really passionate about what I do. So I didn't want to stop bringing people to the water.
Yeah.
So
because you had that skill.
Yeah. And that belief that if you bring people to the water, it will change their perspective, the perspective for the day. I mean, there's a saying that says,
what a nice beach. Like you paddleboarding right on Hampton's beach. There's nothing wrong with that.
Like, and you're gonna leave feeling elevated. It's scientifically proven that being on, in, near, or under the water elevates your mood. And so I guess my one thing I would say to anybody in business development or anybody who's trying anything is just don't give up. Just look up and keep going. Like just keep going.
Keep pushing.
Yeah, keep pushing. Even when it feels like it's too hard, you just got to keep going.
So what type of socials do you have? Are you guys going to dabble in the TikTok kind of industry? Like, do you have someone that does your socials or like?
Yes. I manage my own Instagram and my own Instagram story, which is like my favorite thing is my Instagram story. Half the people who watch it aren't even paddleboarders. It's like, it's so funny. I don't have a lot of views, but I do have a lot. We're on TikTok, but I would not say I'm a TikTok influencer. I'm really prolific in Facebook because I was on Facebook when it first came out. So, Paddle Diva has its own channel on Facebook, and then I have my own Gina Bradley. Yeah. I think, I'm tapped out at whatever it is, 5,000. Paddle Diva is a business, so it's unlimited, like limitless how many you can have. I have a YouTube channel with a lot of videos that are up.
Nice. I will tag all this below for everyone.
It's really fun. Yeah. I mean, so I have a lot of stuff and I get a lot of nice feedback from people. I mean, my feed is, pretty well developed. I mean, I keep it pretty consistent. Like I don't put pictures of my kids up on my feed. I keep it very consistent to Paddle Diva. My story is a little more personal. And what else? I have a great website. I have a great back end partner who does all my booking called Fair Harbor. Nice. And, I'm definitely very involved in social media. Although the problem is for me in the winter, I'm not really paddleboarding. So it drops out.
Drops down a little bit.
And I have staff that help me make the funniest videos. So
and then a lot of people get enjoyment.
And then we start having fun doing all kinds of goofy things. You'll see if you look at my reels, you'll see that we have
so I'll tag everything down below for everyone of all your information because I'm sure there's a lot of people that vacation in the Hamptons and would love to go paddleboarding. I mean, who would love of Hamptons Beach? Like,
yeah, no, it's so fun. It's so beautiful. It's so bucolic. That's the other issue is it's really hard to, recreate what we have here in the Hamptons. Like for 4 years, Paddle Diva was in the Boca Raton Resort and Club down in Boca Raton. This old, historic, sprawling, like 10-acre property. And I was just taking people paddling like in the intercoastal on Lake Boca. And it's definitely not as inspiring as like leaving from my Paddle Diva center and you'll see blue heron, you'll see egrets, you'll see swans, so it's
hard to compete with what you have now.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
This was so fun. I love entrepreneurship. I always say, anybody who ever reaches out to me for help, I never say no. So if any of your listeners want any kind of help with starting up or questions or inspiration, they can always email me. I'm very accessible.
Beautiful, Gina.
Yeah. And I am me.
There you go. Well, I will link all of her stuff down below, but thank you guys for tuning in for BS with Bella, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
This Jersey girl has no filter.